Warren, and I'm the woman who's going to beat Donald Trump. I am also going to help take back the Senate and put Mitch McConnell out of a job. So, here we are, Michigan. You've got exactly 1 week until you start voting. As you know, right now, voting is going on in California and Massachusetts, pretty much still all over this country. I know results will still keep coming in through the night. But what I see happening is a lot of folks trying to turn voting into some complicated strategy. You know, pundits, friends, neighbors are all saying you have to second guess yourself on this. They're playing games about prediction and strategy. You know, guess what your neighbors are up to here. But prediction has been a terrible business, and the pundits have gotten it wrong over and over. So here's my advice. I've got some advice that I want to start with tonight. So here's my advice. Cast a vote that will make you proud. Cast a vote from your heart. And vote for the person you think will make the best president of the United States of America. Because I want you to think for a minute about this democracy. You are the ones who get to pick the person who will be the next president, and it is an awesome thing. You are going to do it right here in Michigan next week. People are doing it in California right now, and that's what it means to have a democracy. I'm in this race because I believe I will make the best president of the United States of America. Tell you why. I was not born a politician, but I was born a fighter. And I want you to know this. Is this on? Good. I want you to know this. I gotta have a loud voice here. I come by this honest. I think that maybe the reason I've fought all my life is because I learned this from my mother. I want to tell you a story about me. I grew up in Oklahoma. Okay, we got a few Okies here. I grew up in Oklahoma. I am the baby. I have 3 much older brothers. They all went off and joined the military. I am what used to be called a late-in-life baby. My mother always just called me the surprise. Yep, my 3 brothers are all retired. They're back in Oklahoma now. To this day, they are referred to as the boys. That's to distinguish them from the surprise. Now, when I was in middle school, all 3 of the boys were gone by then, and it was just my mom and my daddy and me. And my daddy had a heart attack. He pulled through, but he couldn't work for a long, long time. And I still remember the day when we lost the family station wagon. I remember how my mother used to tuck me in at night, and she would always kiss me and give me this big smile, and I knew what was coming next. She'd leave my room, close the door, and then I'd hear her start to cry. She never wanted to cry in front of me, and I knew that. This is when I learned words like mortgage and foreclosure. And one day, I walked into my folks' bedroom, and laid out on the bed was the dress. Now, some of you in this room will know the dress. It's the one that only comes out for weddings, funerals, and graduations. And there, down by the foot of the bed was my mother. And she had on her slip, and she was in her stocking feet, and she was pacing back and forth. And she was saying, "We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house." She was 50 years old. She had never worked outside the home, and she was terrified. So she looks up and she sees me standing in the doorway. I'm just a kid. And she looks at me, and she looks at that dress, and she looks back at me, and she walks over and she pulls that dress on, she puts on her high heels, and she walks to the Sears, where she gets a full-time minimum wage job answering phones. And that minimum wage job saved our house, and it also saved our family. And that is the first lesson my mother taught me. And that is, no matter how scared you are, no matter how hard it looks, you get out there and you fight for the people you love. It's what I believe. It's what I believe. And here's the thing about that story. I've always carried that in my heart. You want to know who I am? There it is. But I'll tell you another thing about that story. That story is a story about my mother. It's a story about millions of people all across this country who do this every single day. But it is also a story about government. Because understand this, when I was a kid, a full-time minimum wage job in America would support a family of 3. It would cover a mortgage, it would pay the utilities, and it would put food on the table. Today, a full-time minimum wage job in America will not keep a mama and a baby out of poverty. That is wrong, and that is why I am in this fight. Tell you something else about that. That change did not happen by accident. That change was not the result of gravity. That change happened because of who government works for. When I was a kid, the question asked in Washington for setting the minimum wage is, what does it take a family of 3 to make it in America's middle class? What does it take a family to have something solid they can build on? What does it take a family to be able to just get a toehold in this economy and build something going forward? Today, the question asked in Washington for setting the minimum wage is, what will maximize the profits of giant multinational corporations? Well, I don't want a government that works for giant multinational corporations. I want one that works for our families. And I got a plan for that. In fact, I got a lot of plans for that. So I want to tell you just a little story. I'm going to skip over a bunch of stuff. I just want to tell you a little story about what it means to get in a fight. So in the late 1990s and the early 2000s, I was watching what was happening. I was studying families that go broke. And what I was starting to see over and over were people who were getting cheated on mortgages, that they had their own homes already. And someone would come and sell them a mortgage to refinance their home, and by golly, refinance them right out of it. And the banks were making more and more money, and more families were getting hurt. They started out by targeting communities of color, African-American homeowners, Latinx homeowners. They went after seniors. And I started ringing alarm bells everywhere I could. We got a real problem over here. And here's what I discovered. Nobody wanted to hear it. When your ears are stuffed with money, it's hard to hear. So the banks kept on selling those mortgages, and the regulators just looked the other way. The regulators were so deep in the pocket of the banks, they couldn't even hear what was going on. And sure enough, economy crashed in 2008. We just loaded up on that much debt, brought it down, but I hope you all feel better. The banks got bailed out. Millions of families got left behind. Families right here in Detroit got left behind. Millions of people lost their jobs. Millions of people saw their pension funds shrink. Over and over, this pain was felt by families all across this country. So I decided at this point, wait a minute, we're going to make it through this crisis. There's going to be financial reform. By golly, this financial reform is going to have some protection to make sure that we never wreck this economy again with a bunch of banks cheating people. So I had this idea for an agency, right? Man, that sounds sexy. So I had this idea for this agency, and the basic idea is the same as the idea behind the safety. We have Consumer Product Safety Commission. You can't sell a toaster in America that has a 1 in 5 chance of burning down your house. You shouldn't be able to sell a mortgage that has a 1 in 5 chance, which these did, of costing a family their home. So that's the basic idea. And I wanted an agency. I don't want a single law. I wanted an agency because I knew the banks will rework these things. They'll give it another name. They'll figure out how to rewire it. So I wanted an agency that would have one job, just to be on the side of families, to make sure they don't get cheated on, let's make it all of it, mortgages, credit cards, payday loans, student loans. You don't get cheated on financial products. So that's the basic idea. So I go to Washington. Now, remember, I'm not in elected office. That's not my job. I'm a full-time teacher and researcher. Let's hear it for the nerds. Yes. So I go to Washington, and basically, I knock on doors. Anybody who'll talk to me. Democrat, Republican, I don't care. I'm just trying to pitch the idea for this agency. We're in a crisis. We're going to rewrite the laws. Let's get this agency in it. And here's what happened. Basically, I started getting the same 2 answers from everybody. This just really knocked me over. And the first answer was, huh. That's actually a pretty good idea. You could make a real difference. That's structural change. That would actually make a difference in the market. And the second half to the answer was, don't even try. You'll be up against the banks. You'll be up against Wall Street. You'll be up against all of the Republicans, and shoot, you'll be up against half the Democrats on this. You will never get it done. Now, I get it. So I heard this and I thought, I get it. Big structural change is hard, but it is the right thing to do. So we got in this fight and took on the big banks. They were spending more than $1 million a day for nearly a year, just trying to fight back against this and the other financial reforms. But boy, this was the heart of it. They were out there. We fought the Republicans. We fought them all. But we built the coalitions. And in 2010, Barack Obama signed that agency into law. Dang. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. That little agency has now forced the banks to return more than $12 billion directly to people they cheated. So I take away 2 lessons from that. The first is you don't get what you don't fight for. I am in this fight. And the second, and this is really important, after 40 years of Ronald Reagan's trickle-down economics, the second, I see you've heard of Ronald Reagan's trickle-down economics. Can we just all stop and say it has been a monumental failure for American families? But the second lesson I learned about this agency, as we built this agency, is we can make government work for the people. And that's what this agency has done. And that's why being here with you tonight is about 2 things for me. It's about the fight, but it's also about the hope. It's about what we will be able to do together. So that's why I'm here. Let's take some questions and do this. Who have we got? Let's do this. Okay. Let's do some questions. Let's do some questions. Who's got questions tonight? Where are our questions? Over here? No, where are our questions? We drew these early. Oh, everybody's pointing. Good. Okay. Oh, here we go. Hi.
Okay, perfect. Hi. My name's Andrew Priest. I'm a middle school teacher.
Hey, Andrew.
Thank you. At a lovely public school in the city of Detroit. I have a million questions to ask, but I'll stick to one.
Okay.
Many people know that schools are underfunded, but I don't often hear people talk about more equitable funding.
Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready. Let me do this, Andrew.
Could you talk to us about how you will make school funding more equitable for students, no matter where they live?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Andrew. Okay. So look, here's the deal. I tried to skip over too much, but I got to tell you all, I have known what I wanted to be since 2nd grade. Yeah, I know some of you in the back didn't decide until what, like 4th grade? 5th grade, way in the back. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Since 2nd grade, I have wanted to be a public school teacher. Can we hear it for our public school teachers? That's it. And I just want you all to know, I started early. I used to line my dollies up and teach school. I had a reputation for being tough but fair. It's all I ever wanted. I had a very bumpy path to get there, but I made it. I was a special education teacher. Now, I love that word. We have public school teachers in here. I'm gonna need you to back me up on this, okay? But here's the thing. It's not a job, it is a calling. I had 4 to 6-year-olds in special education. I love this work. I would probably still be doing this work today, but at the end of my very first year in teaching, I was visibly pregnant, and the principal did what principals did in those days, wished me luck and hired someone else for the job. And that's how I ended up going to law school and then right back into teaching. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. I truly believe that if we're going to build a future in America, look, roads and bridges are powerfully important. I get it. I get all the things we need to do to produce an infrastructure so that we've got opportunity. But boy, we've got to invest in the education of all of our children. So here's my plan for that. It's time for a wealth tax in America. Yes. Oh, you already know. So I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page here. This is a 2-cent tax on fortunes above $50 million. Your first $50 million, free and clear. I see a guy in the back. This woman is not unreasonable. But on your 50 millionth and first dollar, you got to pitch in 2 cents. 2 cents on every dollar. After that, you hit $1 billion, you got to pitch in a couple of pennies more. That's the basic idea. And just so everybody's tracking on this, anybody in here own a home or grow up in a family that owned a home? Yeah, well, you guys have been paying a wealth tax. It's just called a property tax. And all I'm saying is for the bazillionaires, how about if we include not just the real estate, but also the stock portfolio, the diamonds, the Rembrandt, the yacht? That's the basic idea. Now, you may have heard there are some billionaires who don't like this. One went on TV and cried. It was so sad. Another ran for president. Guess he thought it would be cheaper than a wealth tax. But their argument is, look, I worked hard, I stayed up late, I did this all the time, I had a great idea. You shouldn't punish me. And I said, oh, wait. You made a big fortune here in America. Good for you. Good for you. I think that's great, but here's the deal. I guarantee that if you built a fortune here in America, you built it at least in part using workers all of us help pay to educate. Yep. Yeah. You built it at least in part getting your goods to market on roads and bridges all of us help pay to build. You built it at least in part, protected by police and firefighters, all of us help pay the salaries for. And we're Americans. We love doing this. We want to make these investments in opportunity. All we're saying is when you make it big, I mean really big, I mean top 0.1% big, pitch in 2 cents so everybody else gets a chance to make it. Because now we get to your question. What can we do with 2 cents? And here's where I want to start. I want to expand how we think of public education. With 2 cents, we can provide universal child care and universal early childhood education for every child in this country, 0 to 5. Universal pre-K for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old in America. And we can stop exploiting the people, largely African-American women and Latinas who do this work. We can raise the wages of every child care worker and preschool teacher in America. And that starts the answer because that's equal funding for every one of our children. Goes straight to our communities, comes straight here to Detroit. But there's more. We can make an historic investment in public education. That 2 cents will do all that for our babies, plus an $800 billion federal investment in all of our public schools. Let's lift it up. And when you ask me about equalizing, that plan quadruples the funding for Title I schools. That's how we level this out. And one more, you'll hear this from the heart of a special education teacher. For the first time in history, we will fully fund IDEA so every child with a disability will get the education that child deserves. It is time in America to say that investing in our children is not just a local obligation, not just a state obligation. It is the obligation of a nation that wants to build a future. So there's some more parts to this plan, because it turns out 2 cents on that top 0.1% produces a lot of money. I'll just mention, we can also do post-high school education, technical school, 2-year college, 4-year college, tuition free. We can put $50 billion into our historically black colleges and universities. Same 2 cents. And just one more thing. We can cancel student loan debt for $43 million. So there it is. 2 cents. 2 cents. Okay, good. I love that question. Okay, who's next? Who's next? Hi. Hi. Tell me your name.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Seifert.
Hi, Yvonne.
Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you, too.
I want to thank you for your campaign, which has been amazing as a woman to see your spirit. And the way you handle all the misogyny thrown at you, it's pretty badass. My question is, with Trump, our prestige, our reputation, our relationships around the world have really suffered.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, what will you do to go about repairing those relationships and restoring our reputation?
Good. So thank you for the question, and I like the way you frame it. And, you know, the way I see it, it is the job of the President of the United States to keep America safe. And part of that is that we need a strong military. As I said, all 3 of my brothers served. It's important to support our military. We have the finest military in the world. And they have committed to make any sacrifice for us. Their families sacrifice for us. But that means that we have a sacred obligation to them not to send our military to try to solve problems that can't be solved militarily. That's step 1. So that means we need to look at all the tools in the toolbox when we think internationally. Donald Trump has stripped down the State Department, and this is just dumb. I'm sorry, there's just no other way to describe it. Our State Department, these are the people who are our eyes and ears around the world. They represent America. They know the local culture. They know the local history. They know the local politics. They tell us in advance where there's trouble and what we need to focus on. And we have just decimated what's going on at the State Department. So one of the first things I will do as president is I will bring the State Department back up to full staff. We just got to support our State Department. Third part, and I'll just mention briefly, are our economic tools. We need a strong economy here at home that doesn't just work for a thin slice at the top, doesn't just work for 5 giant banks. We have an economy that we build from the grassroots up that puts us in a much stronger position to work around the world with the rest of the nations. Fourth part I want to mention, the importance of allies. You know, I know this is going to seem really tough, but I think we ought to know the difference between our friends and the people who would do us harm, and we ought to treat our friends better than the people who would do us harm. I don't think we ought to cozy up to dictators. And I don't think we ought to cut and run on our allies and abandon them. So much of that, working with our allies, is going to go a long way, but I got to mention one more. When you think about what we try to accomplish internationally and the importance of working with our allies, we also have to remember that leadership happens by example. And what Donald Trump has been doing down at our border has not only been shameful to us as a people, it has put us in a terrible position around the world. The world looks at what happens at our border, and they say the United States has lost moral authority, has lost leadership. So understand this. I will not take away children from their families. I will not lock up children in cages. I will close for-profit detention centers. And I will work every single day to make sure that this country is living its values. I will do my best as president to make you proud of the United States of America in all of our dealings. Good. Gotta do this. Good. Thank you. I like that. We're gonna do this. You guys are so good. Thank you. Oh. Okay. We got one more question over here. Oh my gosh.
That was so weird. I'm so sorry.
No.
So I think we have time for 2 more questions.
2 more questions.
So I'm going to pull them, and we're going to do the same thing. This is Willa. And so we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to read the number. You're going to yell persist, and you're going to make it over here, right? Okay.
Okay. Right over here. Okay.
9927239.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay, come on over.
Did we find it? Okay.
Yeah, somebody yelled bingo. Do not remove the beans from your card yet. We will verify that number.
All right, 9927243.
Was there one? Oh, okay. That's no. 243.
Here, we
We got it? Yeah. We got it? All right. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Willa. All right, good. Okay. So we're going to do some more questions. Okay. Hi. Hi.
Hello, my name is Dion Freeman. I'm from Flint, Michigan. Good to have you here.
Woohoo.
I have a question for the city of Flint and for the state of Michigan.
Yep.
We are surrounded by water, and we are a natural water resource for America. Mm-hmm. Nestle Company is chipping us out of our natural resources. And before we became an industrialized state, we were all about agriculture.
Yep.
What are you going to do to help preserve our natural resources and get back water, clean water, back as a natural human right? Because
all right,
we're still paying for water that we cannot use in Flint, Michigan.
So, thank you for the question. Water is life. And so we need to protect our water. But here's the thing to understand, because here's how I hear that question. What I really hear that question as is, look what happens when government works for giant corporations instead of working for the rest of us. Because this isn't about a problem with the water that's occurred naturally, right? This is about a giant corporation that's come in and said, I can boost profits by sucking it all up for myself and then discharging my filth, right? And that's making poor decisions for the people. So here's the question. Why does the government let them do that? Mm-hmm. Money talks, right? Money talks. No, it's not just greed. It is greed. Oh, yeah. But it's, think about it, it's corruption. It's the greed may not change. The question is, our government is the part that's supposed to be on our side. Let me just think about how this works over and over and over. We have a government that works great for giant drug companies, just not for people trying to get a prescription filled. It works great for people who want to make money by investing in private prisons and private detention centers, just not for the human beings whose lives are torn apart by those places. We have a government that works great for giant oil companies that want to drill everywhere, just not for the rest of us who see climate change bearing down upon us. And whether it's on water resources or on pollution whether it's on permitting these factories to be located over and over and over in communities of color, where they destroy the water, they destroy the air, whatever it is, understand this. When a government works great for those with money, and it's not working so well for anyone else, that is corruption, pure and simple. And whatever issue brought you here tonight, whether it's the water, whether it's gun violence, whether it's health care, whether it's student loans, whether it's immigration, if there is a decision to be made in Washington, I guarantee it has been influenced by money. It has been shaped by money. It has had exceptions carved out by money. Most of it never even makes a headline, just a little change year by year by year, until this whole country, this whole economy, this whole democracy works for a handful at the top and leaves everyone else behind. So for me, we have to make a first priority of not just backing up on the money issue and say, oh, we can't do anything, or nibbling around the edges. It is time for an anti-corruption bill in Washington. We got to get on our front foot and fight back. So here's the good news. I have the biggest anti-corruption plan since Watergate. Here's the bad news. We need the biggest anti-corruption plan since Watergate. So the importance of this is to get our government on our side. So they're regulating on our side in your specific case. But let me just give you a sample of what's in this anti-corruption plan. How about we start with end lobbying as we know it? Block the revolving door between Wall Street and Washington. Block the revolving door between the big polluters and the EPA. We gotta do this. Block the revolving door between the big drug companies and the FDA. I could do these all night long. I'm going to mention just one more. You really want to hose out some corruption in Washington? Make everyone who runs for public office put their tax returns online. So this is it. This is a democracy. We got this chance in 2020 to beat back the corruption, and that means put our government on our side. That's how we're going to fix this problem. Thank you. Good. Oh, I love you guys. We're going to do this. Yes, we're going to do this. Okay.
All right, Senator.
Another question.
We have time for one last question.
One last question. Yep. Okay, hi. Who we got?
Hi. My name is Brianna.
Hi, Brianna.
Hi. So I don't know if you noticed on your drive here, but we have some pretty bad roads here in Michigan. So do you have a plan to invest in our infrastructure or our roads?
and you're not going to be surprised by this. The answer is, of course I have a plan for this. But you know, instead of doing a lot of detail on this, you can look, and I hope anybody does. Go to elizabethwarren.com. You can kind of see all the pieces here. But you've got what the music is now. Right? The heart of this is two parts. We got to ask those at the top to pay a little more. I use the 2-cent wealth tax, but it's more than this. Giant corporations like Amazon and Eli Lilly and Halliburton reported billions of dollars in profits last year and paid zero in taxes. That is not right. We have to ask those at the top to pay a little more. That's how we have enough money for infrastructure. And the second part is what we were just talking about. We have got to be willing to pick up our regulatory tools and use them on behalf of the people. Trickle-down economics, we were talking about it a minute ago. Trickle-down economics, just think about it this way. From 1980 basically forward, what has been the principle? How does it work? It's helped the rich and powerful get richer and more powerful. And how do you do that? You cut taxes for those at the top. That's how they get richer. And you cut regulations. That's how they get more powerful. It is time for us in America to say trickle-down economics has been a failure. We're going to build this economy from the grassroots up, and we're going to save our democracy. For me, that's what this is about. So thank you. Lots of money for this. Let me wrap this up by saying a serious note here, because this is serious. We've now had 3 years of Donald Trump. I know, but it's more than booing. You know, there are a lot of people across this country who are afraid. They are afraid for their families. They are afraid for their neighbors. They are afraid for the children locked up in cages at our border. They are afraid for children on lockdown in our public schools. They are afraid. They are afraid for women. They are afraid for people of color. They are afraid for LGBTQ people. They are afraid for immigrants, all of whose rights are going to be up for grabs in this United States Supreme Court. They are afraid for our nation, and they are afraid for our survival of our planet. And here's the thing. The danger is real. Our democracy, our very future, hangs in the balance. And so this is a decision each and every one of you is going to have to make. When there is this much danger, do you decide to kind of get a little timid, back up, crouch down a little, or do you decide to fight back? Me, I'm in this because I'm fighting back. I'm fighting back. I'm fighting back. I'm fighting back. You bet I am. Fighting back is an act of patriotism. Think of it this way. Think of it this way. We fought back against a king to form this country. We fought back against the scourge of slavery to save this union. We fought back against a Great Depression to rebuild our economy. And we fought back against the rise of fascism to protect our democracy. Americans are at our best. When we see big problems, we call them out and we fight back. And that's why I'm in this fight. So, look, you probably figured out by now that I am not running a campaign that has been shaped by a bunch of consultants. I also don't have a bunch of proposals that have been carefully designed not to offend big donors. I passed that stop sign a long, long time ago. I am fighting this campaign based on a lifetime of fighting for working families. I am fighting this campaign from the heart because I believe in you. And I believe in the America that we can build together. An America where every single person has value. An America where every single child is worth investing in. An America where in our democracy, it's people, not money, that is the most important part. I believe in that America, and I can see that America. And if you think that America is possible, and you think that America is worth fighting for, then I'm asking you, get in this fight. Get in this fight. Vote for me, but more. more. Go to elizabethwarren.com. Volunteer an hour to spend on the phones. Do some door knocking. Talk to your neighbors. Talk to people in front of you in line at the grocery store. But get in this fight, because understand this. This is the moment in history that we have been called to. And this moment will not come our way again. This is our moment to choose hope over fear. This is our moment to choose courage over cynicism. This is our moment to dream big, fight hard, and win.
Judge Judy Scheimlin.
Thank you and good evening. It's wonderful to be here with you tonight. As some of you may know, I live on the other coast of Florida and have been there for a little over 20 years. The people here clearly love Mike Bloomberg. You know that I'm a truth teller. I don't do spin. This is the greatest country on the planet. And the greatest country on the planet deserves the greatest president. This is a very important time. It was important enough for me to get off the couch and to come out and to say to America, we can't be sentimental. This is not a time for a sentimental candidate. This is the greatest country in the world. It doesn't need a revolution. It may need a little tweaking. It does need a little tweaking. I'm a girl who realized the American dream. So did Mike Bloomberg. My husband and I lived, when our kids were in college, we lived in a studio apartment with a Murphy bed. And that wasn't so long ago. Well, it was a long time ago. 1990, to me, it was a moment. So I know what it is to be able to grab the brass ring. And there are too many people who need that opportunity. So America needs tweaking in order to give them that opportunity. But it doesn't need a revolution. We're fortunate in having someone that we can vote for in this election who is a manager, a leader, someone who has governed with grace, who brought New York City through the tragedy of 9/11, who brought New York City back after 2008, when everybody said New York City was through. And he did that because he's a genius. He sees a problem, he brings on the best people in the world, and he says to them, this is the problem. I want to fix it. And he listens to them. That's what he will do for us. We have to make sure it happens, because if we don't, the rancor in this country will rip us apart. So for me, it is a joy. And at my stage in life, I have so few of those. It is a joy and a thrill for me to introduce a man who I respect, who I admire, and I hope will inhabit 1600 in 2021, Mike Bloomberg.
What a crowd. Thank you all for coming. Judy and I were just going to sit home tonight, her at her home, I at mine, watch a little television, have a drink or two. But I do want to thank Judge Judy. Isn't she amazing? And also a big thanks to all the elected officials and Florida leaders supporting our campaign, including Mayors Manny Diaz, Phil Levine, Bob Buckhorn, Keith James, and Congress members Ted Deutsch and Stephanie Murphy. Let's hear it for them. Now, it's great to be here in this beautiful state. I know you're not used to seeing a New Yorker in southern Florida in late winter. But unlike the president, I didn't come here to golf. Or to reveal classified information to Mar-a-Lago members. I came here because winning in November starts with Florida. And if I'm the nominee, let me make you this promise. We will beat Donald Trump here in Florida and in swing states around the country. Now, the night the polls are still open in a number of Super Tuesday states, and as the results come in, here's what is clear. No matter how many delegates we win tonight, we have done something no one else thought was possible. In just 3 months, we've gone from 1% of the polls to being a contender for the Democratic nomination for president. Enthusiasm they don't lack. All across America, I've been talking with voters, and my message is simple. I am running to beat Donald Trump. And to start rebuilding our country and to start getting things done. And I mean big, important things like stopping gun violence and fighting climate change and finally achieving affordable health coverage for all Americans. This is a campaign for change, a campaign for sanity, for honesty, a campaign for inclusion, compassion, competence, and a campaign for human decency. And this is a campaign to bring our country back together and put the United back in the United States of America. That's the message I've been delivering not only to Democrats, but also to swing voters who will actually decide who will be our next president. And tonight we proved something very important. We proved we can win the voters who will decide the general election. And isn't that what this is all about? Now, while my fellow candidates spent a whole year focusing on the first 4 states, I was out campaigning against Donald Trump in the states where the election will actually be decided, like Wisconsin and Michigan and Pittsburgh and Ohio and North Carolina and, of course, Florida. President Obama proved that a Democrat can win all of those states, but in 2016, we lost them all. Well, I'm running to win them back. And together, we're going to get it done. Now, we all know Trump's strategy: attack Democrats, make their plans look unrealistic, unaffordable, and undoable. That won't work against us. Our plans are sensible, workable, and achievable, and we have the record and the resources to defeat Trump in swing states the Democrats lost in 2016, like Florida. I know we can do it, and you know who else knows it? Donald Trump. And that's why he keeps attacking us on Twitter. Today, he sent a tweet out urging people not to vote for us. Gee, I wonder why. Clearly, Trump is scared stiff of facing us, and for good reason. In every campaign I ran for mayor, we built a broad coalition that brought Democrats and independents and moderate Republicans together. Donald Trump the other day called me short. I said, Donald, where I come from, we measure people from the neck up. That's how we're going to beat Donald Trump. I believe we need a leader who is ready to be commander-in-chief, not college debater-in-chief. So if you want someone who talks turkey and who has a record of accomplishment on all the big issues facing our country and who has the resources to beat Trump, I'm your guy. And while Trump tweets, I follow facts, respect data, and tell the truth. My whole career, I have been a doer, and I believe we need less talk, less partisanship, less division, less tweeting. In fact, how about no tweeting from the Oval Office ever again? Now, you've all heard our campaign slogan, Mike will get it done. Well, let me tell you what the it is. It means winning this November and sending Donald Trump back to Mar-a-Lago permanently. But that's just the beginning, because getting it done means finally providing health insurance to every American who lacks it. Getting it done means passing common-sense gun safety laws that protect our children and communities. Getting it done means making America a global leader in the fight against climate change. Getting it done means creating good jobs with higher wages. Getting it done means addressing discrimination and inequality. Getting it done means creating a path to citizenship and finally fixing our broken immigration system. And getting it done means protecting a woman's right to choose. Our campaign is a fight for America's ideals and values. It's a fight to build a better future for everyone, not to bring back a past that left so many out. It's a fight we cannot afford to lose. So I need your help and I need your vote. And when you talk to your friends and families, thank you, just tell them. If you want quality health insurance for everyone, not just empty promises, if you want to combat inequality with fairer taxes and better jobs, if you support my commitment to public education, no matter what zip code you live in, if you share my belief for opportunity for all and not just for a few, if you are ready to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, and if you are ready to clean out the Oval Office and get things done, then welcome to Bloomberg 2020. Thank you.
Health care for every citizen. The movement that calls to raise the minimum wage. The movement for paid family leave. The movement of Bernie Sanders that will truly drain the swamp of Trump in D.C. That movement that will bring jobs to our people, peace and stability to the international community, and most importantly, sustainability to our planet. That's Bernie Sanders. Like the next president of the United States said it best, it's not me, it's not you, it's not him, it's all of us. All of us. To finish, brothers and sisters, what happens next is up to all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Vermont's Attorney General, T.J. Donovan.
How we doing, Vermont? Vermont sent a message tonight to the rest of the country. We spoke loudly and clearly. We want change. We've had enough of Donald Trump. And Vermonters know best that Bernie Sanders is the best candidate to beat Donald Trump in November. Vermonters know that Bernie, as our next president of these United States, will restore our democracy and take our country back. It is time to unite behind Senator Sanders. And as somebody who grew up in Burlington when Bernie was mayor, I am not surprised that Bernie's message is resonating with millions of Americans tonight. He has a long history of advocating for fairness, for justice, compassion, and common sense. All qualities our country desperately needs right now. That's why we need Bernie. And let me tell you this, he's a rarity in politics. He, unlike anybody else in politics, has been absolutely consistent in his values for 40 years. He won't change. He'll change our country for the better. He has been absolutely unrelenting in his pursuit for a more fair and just world. Whether as mayor, as U.S. Congressman, or as United States Senator, Bernie Sanders has fought for all people. He has fought for our environment. He has fought against inequality and injustice wherever it is. He will fight for us he will fight to restore our democracy, and in November, he will win. And because it's election night, let's talk a little bit of politics. As a proud member of the Democratic Party, as somebody who has run down ballot races like state's attorney, like attorney general, let me tell you this, nobody gets out the vote like Bernie Sanders. Bernie's grassroots campaign engages and excites people because it's just that. It's about people. And when people feel heard and respected, they vote. This is common sense. This is Bernie's campaign. This is what's going to win the presidency in November. Democrats and Americans and everybody, this is our time to come together, to unite behind Bernie Sanders. This is the time, as the poet wrote, that justice can rise up and hope and history can rhyme. This is our time to elect Bernie Sanders as our next president and change our country, take it back, and move this country forward. Thank you. Let's win in November.
Please welcome to the stage Vermont State Treasurer Beth Pierce.
I gotta move that down a little bit. They're all taller than me. There we go. So thank you very much. I'm your Vermont State Treasurer, and I'm proud to support my Senator, Barry Sanders, for president. As a treasurer, I care about the bottom line and work toward financial and economic prosperity. But that bottom line does not belong to a select few, but it belongs to everybody in Vermont. Bernie understands the bottom line, will bring that knowledge and commitment to the rest of the country, and will work to make sure that that bottom line is shared by each and every one of us. My office works to make sure that everybody in Vermont has an opportunity for a lifetime of financial well-being. You want that for yourself, you want that for your family, you want that for neighbors, I want that for everybody in Vermont. Bernie Sanders wants that for all of America. Bernie Sanders will provide the opportunity for a lifetime of financial well-being for every single person in the United States. He will make sure that every person has the right to economic justice, social justice, health care, a decent job and livable wage, financial security and retirement, access to education, housing, and a clean environment. Bernie Sanders will work to address the issues of climate change. Bernie will work to put an end to discrimination. Bernie will put an end to the vitriol, hate, and anger that has undermined our future. Bernie Sanders has a vision of a fair and equitable America, proud in its heritage, able to address its challenges, and willing to work for justice and prosperity for all. To quote Senator Sanders, if there was ever a moment when we needed a new vision to bring our people together in the fight for justice, decency, and human dignity, this is that time. I believe in that vision, and I believe in Bernie Sanders' ability as a leader to attain that vision. Now, I know that everyone in this audience has worked really hard volunteering your time here in Vermont and across America. Give yourself a hand for that work. thank you for that good work, but we're not done yet. There are more state primaries, a convention, and a general election ahead. Bernie needs each and one of us to commit, as he has, to that effort to achieve that vision. Let's show the rest of the country that we share in that vision. We want justice, decency, and human dignity. Let's work so that President Bernie Sanders will be there to lead us in that vision. Let's finish the work and elect Bernie as the next president of the United States. Thank you. Let's get it done.
From Vermont, please welcome to the stage our Lieutenant Governor, David Zuckerman. Wow! Go Vermont! It is amazing to see and hear so many incredible supporters for Bernie Sanders, our next president. I know Bernie's an amazing inspiration for so many people and for all of you to get involved. I'm going to tell you my story. I was a cynical college student. Who here is a cynical college student about politics? I was you back in 1992. Active on social justice issues and thought the political system wasn't for me. And there at UVM, I saw Bernie Sanders speak. Someone who took no corporate contributions. Someone who said exactly what he believes in. Universal health care. Free public college and trade school. The climate crisis, affordable housing, criminal justice reform, and so much more. So I volunteered for him, just as millions are doing today. You are amazing. He inspires people, as you know, who otherwise have given up on the system. That is what bringing people together is all about. He inspires people as to what democracy can be. Is this democracy right here? From that moment, over 27 years ago, he inspired me to run for office, just as he has mentored and inspired hundreds and thousands of others, and he's helped many win, including me. And I want to just express my appreciation to everybody here who helped me become a legislator for 14 years in the House, 4 years in the Senate, and the last 4 years as your Lieutenant Governor. Now I got to say, I hope that you'll help me to be Vermont's next governor in this state. But it's not just me. It's TJ and Beth and a number of representatives and senators over here that you also have to help elect, and other new fresh faces, so that we can help Bernie when he's president, help us in Vermont lead the way on universal health care, rebuilding our rural economy and our communities, supporting our public schools and our teachers, and we have to put Vermont back in the lead on tackling our climate crisis while creating good-paying jobs all across the state. Now, most people in this room are from Vermont, but I got to speak to a few folks who aren't from Vermont at this moment. It is critically important for this country to realize that Bernie does better in rural and conservative areas than any Democrat on the ballot. That's why he can win all across this country. It's for all those reasons that the day he announced, I jumped in and endorsed him as the first statewide official in the country to endorse Bernie Sanders. And like many of you in this room, I went to New Hampshire. We've been making phone calls. Has anybody here gone to New Hampshire, made phone calls, or contributed to Bernie? Raise your hand if you have. Now, we have to thank people all across the country who have been inspired just as we have. We know that this movement is transforming our democracy from one that primarily rewards the establishment to a democracy that rewards everyone for their hard work and creates opportunities for everyone, no matter where they come from or the situation they were born into. Everyone deserves a chance. But our work is not done. Tonight is the first in many more nights and many more days when we have to help all across the country. The election is in November, and is the most important election in our lifetime. So I want to ask you, after tonight, will you keep fighting for health care for all? Will you keep fighting for our planet? Will you keep fighting for our children? Will you keep fighting for our families? Will you keep fighting for your neighbor? Will you keep fighting for all of us? Will you keep fighting for Bernie? Will you keep fighting for Bernie? If yes, which it is clearly yes, I will continue fighting with you for Bernie tonight until we succeed in reclaiming our democracy and get Trump out of office and put Bernie as the next president of the United States of America. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Bernie 2020 campaign manager Faz Shakir.
Hello, everybody. Hey, everyone, we are having a good night, and it's only going to get better. Senator Sanders is going to speak to you all in roughly 30 minutes. We're waiting for a couple more results to come in, and then he'll be out here. But I wanted to say a few words, and then we'll have a special guest say a few words. So hang with me for a moment. I want to thank you for making history. Together, we are building a movement that is making history. You are a part of an unprecedented grassroots movement that has had more individual volunteers and contributions than any campaign in presidential history. I want to thank the staff, our wonderful staff. I want to thank our volunteers and all of our supporters who have put in so many efforts. The numbers of dials that we have made, the numbers of texts that we have made, the numbers of door knocks we have made are in the tens of millions, and there's no other campaign that matches it. So thank you all for all of your hard work and efforts that you put into this campaign. Vermont, you know Bernie Sanders well. You know a few things about him that I have come to know over the course of this campaign. One is a vision for this country that stands unique. It stands apart from all others. It is this desire in him to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, a desire to fight for those who need the government to give them support, to provide voice to the voiceless. It has been the mission of his life. But more than policy, the things that you know about Bernie Sanders that I feel others do not, is we're talking about an individual who has incredible integrity. When you think about the fact that he has for his life waged grassroots campaigns that do not rely on the powerful and the wealthy to fund them, why does he do that? It's because he believes in a mission to fight for the working class, and he fights it with integrity. He has never compromised, he will never compromise, and that's why he deserves to be our next president of the United States. All right, folks, I want to introduce to you somebody who has been his partner in the cockpit for his entire life, someone who has been traveling the country, and by the way, where she has traveled, we have been doing very well tonight. Someone who is not only one of the top closest advisors to this campaign, close advisor to me, someone who has given us a great deal of support and confidence, gives us on our worst days a sense of optimism that we all need, and somebody who is going to be a wonderful First Lady of the United States, Jane Sanders.
To be here in Vermont. Thank you so much. Do you know what today is? It's Super Tuesday, but it's also the anniversary of the first mayoral win when Bernie won in 1981 on March 3rd. So we thought that was a good omen for this night, and neither of us even considered being anywhere else but here tonight. So I want to begin just by saying thank you, Vermont. You know, our motto is not me, us, and that is indicative of the fact that this is a movement. This isn't just a campaign. Bernie says all the time, it's not just about him. It's not just about winning the presidency. It is about transforming this country. And this movement started right here. I've had the pleasure to go all over the country, and honestly, we were young, long time ago, when he won, and you all educated us as to how to listen, how to work with the communities, of various communities across the state, whether it's the farmers or the activists or every group that we have. You taught me, at least, that being a community organizer was more important than being a politician. We have so enjoyed being part of the Vermont community, and we've brought that everywhere that we've gone. Just in the last week, I've been to Tennessee, Oklahoma, Minnesota, Utah, California, and I don't know where else. And then Bernie had been to 7 other states in the last week. So we've been going all over this country, bringing your common sense, to the rest of the country and meeting them, meeting people just like you, people who have a vision for the future of America, for it to be what we want it to become, a more inclusive society, a more tolerant society, a more loving, compassionate society. Thank you. But really, honestly, we learned it all here in Vermont. We're thrilled to be celebrating here with you tonight. We have a number of wins under our belts already. And there's a number more to come. But, you know, Bernie talks policy all the time. He talks about ideas and vision for the future. He's an inspirational leader. But I want to tell you what I think Vermonters already know. He is a caring, compassionate man and a fantastic, I want to take this opportunity among my close friends to say that I appreciate him so much as a partner in life, as a father to our children, as a grandfather to our grandchildren, and an inspiration to me. So anyway, I just wanted to come out and say hi and tell you how glad I am to be home. And Bernie will be out soon, okay? Just want to, I know he has a few things that he's dealing with, but like 14 states, but he'll be here shortly. And thank you again so much from the bottom of our hearts. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next President of the United States, Bernie Sanders.
Thank you, Vermont! You know, it's a funny thing. 31 years ago today, we won the mayoral race in Burlington, Vermont. And we won that race against all of the odds. Everybody said it couldn't be done. And when we began this race for the presidency, everybody said it couldn't be done. But tonight, I tell you with absolute confidence, we're going to win the Democratic nomination. And we are going to defeat the most dangerous president in the history of this country. We are going to win. We are going to defeat Trump because we are putting together an unprecedented grassroots, multi-generational, multiracial movement. It is a movement which speaks to the working families of this country who are sick and tired of working longer hours for low wages and seeing all new income and wealth going to the top 1%. It is a movement which says the United States will have health care for all as a human right. It is a movement that says we will bring major reforms in education, making sure that all of our kids can go to college without coming out in debt. Now, what makes this movement unique is we are taking on the corporate establishment. We are taking on the greed of Wall Street, the greed of the drug companies who charge us the highest prices in the world, the greed of the insurance companies, and given the existential crisis of climate change, we are saying to the fossil fuel industry, their short-term profits are not more important than the future of our country and the world. But we are not only taking on the corporate establishment, we're taking on the political establishment. But we're going to win because the people understand it is our campaign, our movement, which is best positioned to defeat Trump. You cannot beat Trump with the same old kind of politics. What we need is a new politics that brings working class people into our political movement, which brings young people into our political movement, and which in November will create the highest voter turnout in American political history. So we're going to beat Trump because this will become a contrast in ideas. One of us in this race led the opposition to the war in Iraq. You're looking at him. Another candidate voted for the war in Iraq. One of us has spent his entire life fighting against cuts in Social Security, wanting to expand Social Security. Another candidate has been on the floor of the Senate calling for cuts to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and Veterans programs. One of us led the opposition to disastrous trade agreements which cost us millions of good-paying jobs. And that's me. And another candidate voted for disastrous trade agreements. One of us stood up for consumers and said we will not support a disastrous bankruptcy bill. And another candidate represented the credit card companies and voted for that disastrous bill. So here we are. we have two major goals in front of us, and they are directly related. First, we must beat a president who apparently has never read the Constitution of the United States. A president who thinks we should be an autocracy, not a democracy. But second of all, we need a movement and are developing a movement of black, white, Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight. Of people who are making it clear every day they will not tolerate the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality we are experiencing. We will not give tax breaks to billionaires when 500,000 Americans sleep out on the streets. We will not allow 49% of all new income to go to the 1% when half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. Now, I don't know what's going to happen later tonight. We're doing well in Texas right now. We won Colorado. And I'm cautiously optimistic that later in the evening, we can win the largest state in this country, the state of California. But no matter what happens, if this campaign, and I don't know what will happen, but if it comes out to be a campaign in which we have one candidate who is standing up for the working class and the middle class, we're going to win that election. And if we have another candidate who has received contributions from at least 60 billionaires, we're going to win that election. And if there is another candidate in the race who is spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, we're going to tell him, in America, you cannot buy elections. So I am excited about where we are. We have come a long, long way. And I want to, once again, thank the great state of Vermont and all of the people in the state. Not only for the victory you gave our movement tonight, but for the years and years of love and support you have given me and my family. So Vermont, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you all very much. Let's go on to the White House. Thank you.
It's showtime! 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 It's showtime!
It's a good night. It's a good night. And it seems to be getting even better. They don't call Super Tuesday for nothing. By the way, this is my little sister, Valerie, and I'm Jill's husband. Oh, no, this is oh, you switched on me. This is my wife. This is my sister. They switched on me. Folks, it's still early, but things are looking awful, awful good. For those who've been knocked down, counted out, left behind, this is your campaign. Just a few days ago, the press and the pundits had declared the campaign dead. And then came South Carolina, and they had something to say about it. And we're told, well, when you got to Super Tuesday, it'd be over. Well, it may be over for the other guy. Tell that to the folks in Virginia, North Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Minnesota, and maybe even Massachusetts. It's too close to call. We're still waiting for Texas and California, a few other small states to come in. But it's looking good. So I'm here to report we are very much alive. And make no mistake about it, this campaign that will send Donald Trump packing. This campaign is taking off. Join us. For those folks, listen, go to joebiden.com. Sign up, volunteer, contribute if you can. We need you, we want you, and there's a place for you in this campaign. People are talking about a revolution. We started a movement. We've increased turnout. And the turnout's turned out for us. That can deliver us to a moment where we can do extraordinary, extraordinary things. Look. Our agenda is bold, it's progressive, it's a vision where health care is affordable and available to everybody in America. Where we bring drug prices down under control with no more surprise billing. Access to hospitals in rural areas as well as urban areas. Access to care. A bold vision where we invest billions of dollars to find, and I promise you, cures for cancer, Alzheimer's, and diabetes. Standing up to and beating the NRA and the gun manufacturers. And leading the world to take on the existential threat of climate change. I'm going to start by rejoining an outfit I helped put together, the Paris Climate Accord, and we're going to move it a long way. A country where the quality of education will not depend on your zip code. Where we triple funding for low-income school districts, providing raises for teachers, full-time school for 3, 4, and 5 years old, and increasing exponentially the prospects of their success. Free community college, providing credentials for every job of the 21st century. And significant reduction in the cost of going to college and your student debt. If you volunteer, you pay nothing. Folks, we can do this. And let's get something straight. Wall Street didn't build this country. You built this country. The middle class built this country. And unions built the middle class. And the neighborhoods we come from, the three... Well, let's see. We're going to go. Look. The middle class is getting clobbered. middle class is getting clobbered. Too many people in the neighborhoods that Jill and Val and I grew up in. So they're getting hurt. They're badly hurt. And guess what? They're the places where we come from, many of you come from. It's where we were raised. The people, they're the reason why I'm running. There's the reason why I'm a Democrat in the first place. These are people who build our bridges, repair our roads, keep our water safe, who teach our kids. Look, who race into burning buildings to protect other people, who grow our food, build our cars, pick up our garbage, our streets, veterans, dreamers, single moms. And by the way, every dreamer, have hope because I'm coming and you're not going anywhere. And we're going to provide a pathway for 11 million citizens. If the other guy had voted for well, I shouldn't get into that. I won't get going. Look, the iron workers, the steel workers, the boilermakers, the plumbers, the electrical workers, these are the people that have been forgotten. I agree with you, man. Look, the people Trump forgot, the people I will never forget and I will always remember. Folks, that's why we need an economy that rewards work, not just wealth. Reestablishes the middle class, and this time brings everybody along. Everybody. Regardless of their race, their ethnicity, whether their gender, their disability, their economic state. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, every stripe. Look, like we did in South Carolina, like we did across America today, like we'll do on all the way to the White House. Look, that's why I was so proud yesterday being embraced by Amy Klobuchar. We won Minnesota because of Amy Klobuchar. And we're doing well in Texas because of Beto O'Rourke. And that's why I was so proud, so incredibly proud to have Mayor Pete's endorsement as well. There's a man of character, intellect, and courage. And by the way, I was proud to be endorsed by Jim Clyburn. Man, he is something else. Look, our campaign reflects the diversity of this party and this nation. And that's how it should be, because we need to bring everybody along. Everybody. We want a nominee who will beat Donald Trump, but also keep Nancy Pelosi the Speaker of the House. Win back the United States Senate. If that's what you want, join us. And if you want a nominee who's a Democrat, a lifelong Democrat, a proud Democrat, an Obama-Biden Democrat, join us. Look, this all starts with a revival of decency and honor and character. Trump has fanned the flames of hate and sought to divide us. He's insulted, demonized, and actually just the way he talks about people. He has not a single sense of empathy. He doesn't have any compassion. No regard for the values that made this country who we are. Not the way you were raised by your moms and dads. He looks at honesty and decency and respect, and he views it as a sign of weakness. He doesn't believe that we're the beacon to the world. He doesn't believe we're all part of something bigger than ourselves. That's why I've said from the moment I announced for this candidacy, we're literally in a battle for the soul of America. Folks, winning means uniting America, not sowing seeds of division and anger and hate. We got to beat Donald Trump, and we will, but we can't become like him. We can't have a never-ending war between the parties. We need a president who can fight, but make no mistake about it, I can fight. But look, we need as badly, someone who can heal. Look, just look what we did when we passed Obamacare, or what President Obama and I did saving the American automobile industry, or what we did to pass the Violence Against Women Act. But it's not enough. This is just a start. We need a president who can heal the country as well. And that is what I will do as your president, I promise you. It's about delivering real results for you, your family, and the community. It's not about me, Jill, or Valerie. It's about you. It's about our families. To paraphrase the English poet Robert Browning, he said, our reach should exceed our grasp. And my reach does exceed our grasp because there's no doubt in my mind we can grasp whatever we reach for. Ladies and gentlemen, I quoted an English poet, but let me quote a real poet now. An Irish poet. Seamus Heaney, who wrote a poem called The Curatorian. And here's what he says, and I believe this to the bottom of my being. He said, history says, don't hope on this side of the grave, but then, once in a lifetime, the longed-for tidal wave of justice rises up, and hope and history rhyme. We can make hope and history rhyme because of what we're saying. There's nothing we can't do. This is about the future. It's not about the past. It's about our children and our grandchildren. It's about leading this country and leading the world once again. Folks, we just have to remember who we are. My Lord, this is the United States of America. And it's time for America to get back up. And once again, fight for the proposition that we hold these truths to be self-evident. That all men and women are created equal, endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights. We say it so often in school, we don't realize how profound it is. We've never lived up to those words, but until this president, we've never walked away from it. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe with every fiber of my being, that's who we are. So let's get back up. We are a decent, brave, resilient people. We can believe again. But we are better than this moment. We are better than this president. So get back up and take back this country, the United States of America. There's not a single thing we can't do. God bless you, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to do this, folks.